and welcome to On Sabbatical with Dr. Crystal. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to have our third interview in the TEFL certification series. Today I have one of my favorite teachers in the program that I did for TEFL certification in Guadalajara this past summer. And I am going to bring to you an interview, and her name, I'm going to probably not pronounce correctly, but she will say it correctly. Vanessa Mayagoitia. Vanessa, thank you for joining us today. I would love it if you would tell the audience a little bit about you and how it is that you came to teaching English and teaching people to teach English.
Okay. First, thank you so much for inviting me to your channel. I am grateful, that I have received your invitation and I'm happy to be here. Well, yes, I think you said my name perfectly. I am Vanessa Mayagoitia. Well, yes, I'm an English teacher currently working in Mexico. Well, because I am from Mexico, born and raised. Well, right now I'm also studying my BA on English teaching. I'm on my fifth semester, and also I work as an instructor on the ITTO certification program that I know you have recently finished. So, yeah, that's pretty much the information about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. So, the theme of this particular episode is giving a behind the scenes look at all the realities of what it takes to be successful in a TEFL certification course, whether that's the learning environment, some of the challenges that people face. You all have heard before about my challenges, but I think the instructors bring a different perspective of what they see people struggling with. So that lets you know what you should be doing or what you need to think about before you decide to launch into a program like this. And then I'm also asking some of my instructors about their experiences working with students who are learning English as well as students who are learning to teach English. So the first question that I have for Vanessa is, what motivated you to start teaching English as a foreign language to begin with, or just to learn English?
Okay. Well, to be honest, I don't know. It just came up to me on a random Wednesday, When I was younger, well, I really liked English. So it's not like I really got to learn it. It just happened. I like it to listen to music, to watch memes on the internet. So I don't know. I think I just learned it naturally. It just did not happen like going to a school or something like that. So I just learned it me myself. Well, about why did I take like the decision on teaching English? I think it's mainly because growing up, I remember being in elementary school or middle school, and teachers in the public areas here in Mexico, at least, they are, I mean, I don't want to say they are not good teachers, but I don't think the programs or the government help teachers to be a good teachers. Maybe, I don't know, it can be that they are not well paid, they don't have the strategies to do it, they don't have the right trainings, or they are not prepared enough. So I was really frustrated. That's how I'm gonna call it, because I don't know how to name it, but maybe I was just frustrated that me being a kid wanting to learn English and not being able to do it like well, because the teachers are not, I don't know, like good enough for whatever reason. So I decided, you know what? I think I like English. I know English, and I think I'm good explaining it. And I also would like to share my knowledge to do in a different way than my teachers did. So I wanted to do like a better job teaching.
Yeah.
But that's what mainly motivates me. Teaching kids who are passionate about learning a new language.
Yeah, I think what you said is really powerful. As a person who dedicated almost 2 decades to teaching before I learned about the TEFL program, I was in psychology or social science, and I'll be honest with you. I think that when you see a need and you see that people are hungry to learn and that they're interested in something, you really want to do it to the best of your ability. I think that's so important for teachers to want to see people learn and to feel like they can make a difference. Like if you had to have had that frustration, if it had been easier for you to learn, how could your experience have been so much better without that frustration? So, that being said, the TEFL program that I was in Guadalajara was really a tough program. I mean, I think all programs probably should be tough because to be able to walk in front of a classroom and teach someone the English language is not a small thing. It's not an easy thing to learn. So, it should require you to really have some grit to be able to be successful, to prove that you are in it for the right reasons and that you have the skills that you need. So, the second question I have for you is, what is a typical day like for a student who's taking one of these TEFL courses, especially from your vantage point as a teacher? Like, what do you think the typical student day should be like in
Well, I
terms of
know,
preparing?
yes.
Mhm.
Well, I know it's tough because certifications are tough.
First,
Of course, you learn a lot of theory on the classroom. You get to learn like a lot of technical vocabulary, like how to teach grammar, how to manage a classroom. A lot of strategies who sometimes I know those kind of topics are boring, right? So,
mhm.
but I know that's something we definitely need to learn to do. Well, I know, but the afternoon you get to plan your class, like you create your own lesson plans. And by the end of the day, usually it's not like every day, but you go to the classroom to teach an actual class, right? Which
Mhm.
I think is the hardest part, where you get to go in front of the classroom with students you don't know their English level. So I know it's tough, but yeah, I think that will be like to go on a
Mhm.
TFL training.
So, another part of this question was about the balance between theoretical and practical. And so, you talked about the teaching practices, which I think for a lot of people, that is the toughest part, particularly if you are not like comfortable in front of strangers or comfortable talking to a group. A lot of people are afraid of public speaking and speaking to people in general, but especially people they don't know, right? I'm wondering, for yourself, what do you enjoy more when you're teaching, the theoretical piece or the practical piece?
Okay, this is a tough question because I love both. Because
Mhm,
without the theoretical part, you cannot get to the practical part. Well, I do enjoy both. And I think it's when you love what you do, you are like, you want to learn more and more and more. And then you like to learn a lot of theory about like the different approaches, uh, the methodologies that you can use in the classroom. So because you want to do the things right, you want to do things better. I think that's why I enjoy theoretical part. So I think that's definitely one of the most important parts, because I know a lot of English teachers. I don't know about other teachers, but I know English teachers sometimes they feel like, okay, I know how to speak English. I can be a teacher, but it's
mhm,
not like that. You
mhm,
need to have a training for that. It's not like you can get in front of the classroom and do or pretend to do what a teacher does, right? So it's very important to learn approaches and the way you can do things better. So I think it's very important. But of course, once you are in front of the classroom, I know sometimes you get very stressed, very nervous, and you get to forget everything. But at least you have a clue on what to do, and you try to remember, okay,
mhm,
what was I supposed to do next? What can I
mhm,
do in this case? How can
mhm,
I
mhm,
manage the situation that is going in the
mhm,
classroom?
mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, that would
You
be it.
said something really interesting that I think is important about the methodology. When you have a good program, there's going to be sound theoretical knowledge. You're going to get the foundational skills and you're going to get to practice the foundational skills. And one of the things that I really appreciated about taking this course after having so much teaching experience is I was able to sort of rethink and reevaluate some of the methodologies I used in my old profession and which ones would transfer over well and which ones didn't work. And even in my mind, I would find myself sort of having like a little argument or a little debate after we would learn something new. I'm like, that's not something I ever did. Why did I never use that? I mean, like when you learn everything, right? But then you have to pick, as an effective teacher, you have to pick out the strategies and methodologies that really work for you, that are in sync with either your principles. Now, it is true that when you're getting a job, and of course, I haven't gotten that far to the series. I'm trying to get people in the class first. There is definitely a place where the language school that you work for, they might have a theoretical orientation and a methodology, and you have to do what you're told, right? That's what I have been told. So I haven't gotten to that point yet. I had the advantage of being in a school where, in my primary profession, I got to choose my own methodology and I got to prove my theoretical foundation. And a lot of times when you'd be on a job interview, you would have to explain, what methodologies do you like? What are the theories that you believe in, and why, and how would you use them in a class? That's a question that we'd ask when we hired teachers in my field before. So thinking about myself with the shoe on the other foot going into teaching English, if you teach adults, there's certain theories and certain, practices that are going to be more successful with older students. There's some things that are going to be better with young kids. There's some things that are going to be better with people who have lack of confidence. They need more reassurance. There are going to be people, their personality either helps or hinders their learning. So different classroom management strategies are going to, work differently. I think that's one thing that you did really well as a teacher. I just give you your props. I think you entered the classroom. Your presence in the classroom was very much, how do I use what's here? You were very, and I'm sorry, I didn't plan to say this, so I didn't think through the words, but you were very present in a way that you were attuned to what was working and how to kind of match our energy, if that makes sense. I know you haven't been teaching the TEFL course for years, and you might be more rigid. Rigid is not a bad thing, right? As you continue to teach. But with us, maybe because you were newer, you were very open to kind of using and matching the energy that we had. And I think that was very effective in terms of getting the class to trust you and then to do what you said do, right? I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's the way I experienced it.
Well, I think me as a teacher, it's because
Mhm.
something that has worked for me is to adapt to the class, because of course the classroom, you want the classroom to be, I mean, the class and everyone in the class to be comfortable, to feel on a safe place. You want them to trust you in general. At the same time, you have to be prepared, of course, to get in the class, but it's very important that they are comfortable with you. So something I like to do is that, to adapt with each person in the class, because that's how you get to get participation from the students. They pay attention, they match your energy. So this is how the class flows. Well, this is, at least that's something that works for me. I don't know if for other teachers, they have different methods, or
Mhm.
plus their personalities. And I think
Yeah.
that my personality as a teacher is almost the same for me as a person. I mean, I am the same person and teacher, like I'm at the same time in the same place. So I'm not like a different person when I step out of the classroom. So yeah, I think it's part of my
Yeah,
person.
authenticity. I think we taught, I don't remember where, but somewhere in the middle of the 9 million hours of classes we had, we talked about trust and authenticity. I think, especially if you're teaching adults and even maybe teens, I think students respond to you differently when they see that you're being yourself. And it's not to say that if you have a more strict or rigid or direct authoritative approach, that they still respect you. And
Yes.
but I think also students benefit from having instructors from different viewpoints and different ages and different experience levels, because it makes you constantly integrate with yourself. Is this working? How is it working? What's working? Because you get something from everybody. Because the
Yeah.
same thing when you're at the front of the room and you have students in your class, they're not all going to have the same personality. They're not all going to have, the same background. They're not all going to be at the same level. So it's going to make a big difference, your ability to be adaptable. So I love that you gave us that word in terms of the importance of adaptability and being yourself, for sure. Let me
That's awesome.
also get on to the third question. So of the students you've seen approach the TEFL course, what are some of the challenges that you've seen, particularly when they're learning to do their practice teaching? What are some of the challenges that are kind of normal for people doing practice teaching? And even from your own experience when you were practice teaching.
I think one of the biggest struggle is to adapt to the context that we are in Mexico, because I know so most teachers who take the ITTO certification come from the States, the UK, or Russia, or many other countries. And it's so much different here in Mexico. I mean, the education system, it's well, deficient. I mean, I want to be true in that. And the education programs here in Mexico are not good. And once the students who are taking the certification get into the classroom, expect, I don't know, the students to know English. And of course, that's something, it's not gonna happen because they are learning English, right? So sometimes they speak so fast, or sometimes they use words for them might be easy or not difficult, but they when they step into the classroom and they start speaking, the students get super scared, super afraid, like, what should I do? So this is one of the things they must struggle about. Well, I
Mhm.
think, of course, I'm not saying that you should be doing things easier for students, but you need to adapt to the
Mhm.
class, because it can be sometimes that on lower levels probably they're going to understand or not. So this is a skill you have to
Mm.
develop once you become a teacher, to be able to adapt to the classroom. Like, if they are like super shy, maybe you can try to, I don't know, ask them questions about their personal life so they can get to talk. Or, I don't know,
Mhm.
find topics that they can find interesting. I don't know. So, yeah, I think is that to adapt and learn the context, because I know, well, this is how things are, at least here in Mexico, because for Spanish speakers, it's something really hard to learn English. So, well, I think that's something they struggle about. And I think that's pretty much it. Probably there
Yeah,
are
I
many
think
other things, but
Yeah, I think that's a good one for people to have in the back of their mind. And the reality is, it's hard to learn a new language. It's not, I think that's something that you are going to have to work on no matter where you go. I don't know if you know this, but I'm intending not to return to Mexico, but I'm going to Thailand to look for my first teaching position. And I've been learning Spanish for 4 years, and I still sound terrible. I still can't really speak. People say, "But you sound like you can speak Spanish." That's because the things that I know how to say in Spanish, I can say those things in Spanish. It's true. And well, let me back up and say, as a result of that, I am aware that what I am trying to help other people do is also a journey that takes years. So
yes.
you can't be impatient with people because you're talking too fast and you're using big words. So my original feedback from all of my practice teaching, the first, I think 3 or 4 in a row, too fast, too fast, too fast. So no matter how much I think I was slowing down, I wasn't slowing down enough. I felt a little unlucky in that all of my first teaching practices were like level 1 and level 2. Like
Hmm.
1A, 1B, 1C. It was a long time before I got out of the one. And that's just the luck of the draw. You know what I mean? I had no control over that. They randomly assign who gets to practice teach with what
Yes.
classes. So it was a while before I got to when I finally got like maybe a 3A or a 3B or something like that, then my slow pace was fine.
Hmm.
But it's something that if you have the same class every day, you will, I think, adapt faster. You can adapt
Exactly.
better when you have the same people.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah.
was about to say. That once you do it like every day or very frequently, you get to learn, like, find your way. So that's something that comes with time and experience. So that's something, of course, it's not gonna happen on your first, second, or third teaching practice. It's going to happen after, I don't know, maybe a few months or maybe a year later. So I think that, yeah, maybe that's something we should not worry about a lot, but that's something we need to take into consideration when you're teaching.
So I have another question for you. So when a student comes to you or you notice that a student is struggling or having a challenge, what kind of support do you provide or does the school provide when students are struggling with a particular issue with their teaching? Because I think there's a lot of people who are like, I want to try this, but what if I'm not good at it? As though they have to show up and be an English teacher. Like during the course of the 4 weeks, you're going to do a lot of practice teaching. You're going to listen to so many lectures, write so many papers. But so what are some of the things that happen to help students overcome the challenges that they're facing when they're struggling with something in the course?
It can be just, because I do observe the teaching practices too. So maybe at the end of these observations, when I get to introduce myself, tell them about me, and then I ask them, like, how did you feel? How do you think it went? What did you like about your class? I had this student who was not being able to understand nothing about what I was saying. So maybe what can I do with this student who was not understanding anything at all? So I might say, I don't know, maybe you can use mime, you can use your body, you can use your hands and face expressions to make things more clear, because that's something that helps a lot when you are learning another language. Of course, because language, well, we understand that language is whatever comes out your mouth, but it's not only that, also your body, it's also your face expressions. Nobody has ever told me, like, you know what, I'm having this problem, can you help me with this? So it just comes at the end of the observation, and then
Mhm.
I give them just some tips or
I
yeah.
love your answer reminding our audience that when you undergo a course like that, there's going to be a group of experts helping you and observing you and saying, next time try this. I noticed this didn't work. One of the things that I leaned into thinking about what you were talking about when students just don't understand anything, I love to draw stick figures and I'm actually really good at it. I have a diversity of stick figure shapes, hairstyles, and outfits. And I
Yes.
really leaned into drawing pictures of people doing things when I was teaching. And the students are like, oh, okay, then they get it.
Yes.
And so nonverbal expressions was another thing that I remember being reminded many, many times about how you can use your body and your facial expressions to express something, so that people get, especially in the early levels. When I actually chose that question, Vanessa, I was thinking about our micro teaching when we're doing the grammar, but you're up at the board teaching your class as though you would teach your English students.
Hmm.
And it's sort of scary, and what you learn is that you can't just read something for a minute or two and then go up to the board and teach it. It's like you could if it was a 2-minute lesson, but a 15-minute lesson, you can't. It's not enough. And I think that was an area where I observed myself and other people struggling. And one of the things that happened that I think that the school does a good job of is we had different people observing us and giving us feedback. And even if you weren't the one at the front of the room, other people were at the front of the room. So you really also learn, what's the word, vicariously by watching other people. Yeah.
Hmm.
I realize that's not really a basic English word, but vicariously is like a popular word when it comes to like, I don't want to have the heartbreak, but I want to learn from my friend type of thing. So we have one more question and it's coming up on 28 minutes. So I know I don't want to be too much longer than 30 minutes, but I want to get this question in. So you are also teaching at the language school where our students practice teach. How do you take what you have learned as an instructor and use that to kind of encourage those TEFL students who are preparing to teach in the real world classroom? How do you bridge that together? Does your real world teaching experience as an English teacher influence how you prepare your students to go out and teach real world English students?
Well, I think we learn from others, and I'm not saying that just because I'm the instructor I'm better than nobody. No, actually, I like to learn about everyone who I get to interact to. So I'm gonna say that it's like we learn collaboratively.
Hmm.
So I like to take their advices, because some of these students in the ITTO course, most of them have teaching experience. So I like to share whatever has worked for me, and I like to learn from them and to apply it into the classroom, and I have done that already. I remember in the classroom. I don't know if you remember Jamila, but I think she did something with what was the word? Something about a technique to make I forgot. Well, the thing is that I have learned some strategies from the classroom in the ITTO, and I have applied it with my students. And
Okay.
I think that's something we do.
Yeah, I think that's another powerful point. Part of being a teacher is also being willing to learn, and learning is always collaborative. We are always learning. Learning is happening. It's a two-way street. It's rarely one direction. There are things that they're giving to you. What is some of the most is one of the most rewarding moments you've experienced as a TEFL instructor, either in the classroom itself or in teaching English
Well,
directly?
when I got to teach, for example, the difference between simple present and present continuous, because that's something most students struggle with as Spanish speakers. So when I get to give them the explanation or the way I like to teach those topics, and they get to tell me, "Oh, I think that's the best explanation that I've ever had, because I never got to understand this like fully or completely, and now I think I'm willing to apply it when I'm speaking." So yeah, I
Mm.
think when they say that a new topic, it's clear for them now after I got to explain to them.
Mm.
That's one of the most rewarding
Well, this has been a fast half hour, and it's been really great for me to have an opportunity to get to know you better. Be willing to come on my channel and talk to people who are interested in. Some people just want to travel. Some people just want to teach. Some people are using teach to travel. Mexico is such a popular place, a beautiful place. Guadalajara is an amazing community. The ITTO community is also a great place to be if you got to be stuck someplace for a month learning something really hard. So I want to give you the last word. I want to invite you to share with the audience how they could get in touch with you or follow you in your journey and what's going on in your life if they're interested. And then any other thoughts you want to share, that thing, something maybe I didn't ask you about that's on your mind now that
Okay.
we're done. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, my email is like my name and my last name. It's Vanessa9 Mayagoitia at gmail.com. The last thing I would like to say is, if you want to contribute to the world and to help kids or people to gain knowledge or to become a better person, you can become a teacher. We need good teachers in the world. So if it's your dream to become a teacher, go for it and try to do your best effort. And I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of people who will appreciate that. So yeah, that's it.
So true. Well said. Well said. Thank you again, Vanessa. Again, thank you for watching this episode of On Sabbatical with Dr. Crystal. We have more great interviews still to come. We're just now in the middle of the series. I already know the next two, so there are probably going to be six altogether. And so I'm so honored to be able to share this with you. If you have questions, things that you would want to ask future people that I'm interviewing, put those in the comments. Also, please like this episode, share it with somebody you know who's anxious to find a way to get out of their country, wherever they are, not necessarily US, but if they want to move or travel. This is a great option, teaching English anywhere, especially if you want to be in Mexico. It's a beautiful place and there's a lot of teaching jobs. So in a year, in 6 months, you could be teaching English in Mexico. I would strongly encourage people to think about that and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much. Have a great day.